So this is Brandon, and he's with Benga Lagoon, and I asked him to actually talk with us today about shark breeding down at Cathedral Rock and just the way it works down there. So take it away.
Okay, so yeah, we have at least 6 or 7 species down there. We have nurse sharks, sicklefin lemon sharks, bull sharks, tigers, and then up in the shallows we have grey reef, white tip black, and black tip reef sharks up in the shallows. The idea of the site is because I know people do object to these sort of feeding sites, and we obviously like to address that in the simple sense that at the present moment in Fiji there's a lot of overfishing. The reefs are not as healthy as they should be. Your guests, when they're here, they're going to see 360 species of tropical reef fish, all about this big. And the problem is with a bull shark that's 10 or 12 foot long, and the tiger even bigger, they want a substantial fish size.
Right.
And we are lacking in that. Also, turtles, for instance, are protected in Fiji, but not enforced. So which means that because nobody actually does anything, you can still catch turtles here. And they have been. For 25 plus years they've been protected, and for 25 plus years they're still catching them. And tiger sharks, that's their fillet steak. That's their favorite food.
Right.
They have the teeth to get through it, the shell. A bull shark, the best they can do is damage the turtle with taking a flipper off. But the tiger can actually consume the whole animal. Wow. And as your guests again will testify, they probably haven't seen many turtles on their dive trip here.
Nope.
In fact, they've got more chance of seeing them on the surface than diving, because this shape has lunged at them and shot spears at them, and if they're still out there and they're still surviving, it's because they're smart. The curious turtle doesn't last long, I would say, in Fiji. It's not good for them to be like that. And so yeah, we certainly don't try and befriend turtles and do anything like that, even if we find them at a site, because it doesn't help them. So yeah, what we are doing is we are supplementing a fish diet. We feed them tuna heads from export tuna, the fillets that are going overseas. We get it from the fish processing plant, we buy it, we bring it out to the island, we put it in a freezer room, and then we take it out to feed the sharks. The sharks are eating very well in comparison to the way they would even eat in the wild. We feed 3 times a week, but having said that, we don't overfeed them because we've got so many sharks at the site, and even though we take like 100 kilos plus of food, with the number of sharks we got, there's only a few sharks are going to eat something each time, and they're probably only going to get 1 or 2 fish heads.
Okay.
So we do prioritize the tigers. A lot of people will say, why do you hand feed the tigers? And I say, for the very reason that I've explained with regards to turtles, their food is the most diminished. So we really want to make sure. Also, they're not the quickest sharks. They're not the fastest.
Really?
So if I throw a fish head on the bottom, very often the bull shark will get to it, or the nurse sharks will all of them will cover it with their bodies, and one of them will break off a piece and the next one will go. And so even the bull sharks sometimes don't manage to outwit the nurse sharks. Nurse sharks just carpet a fish head, and so then it becomes very, very difficult for the other sharks, as big as they are, to get something. And so yeah, we hand feed tigers. We sometimes hand feed lemon sharks as well, if we think that they're looking particularly hungry. And the way we do that is not by size or anything else, it's just by their demeanor. So a hungrier shark is a pushier shark, basically. Okay. I always give comparisons the guests hopefully can understand, and I say it's like you. If you get to the buffet and you're one of the last people there and you're really hungry, you'll try and push your way to the front of the queue. And I said sharks kind of don't do queues, so yeah, they want to get the first fish head they possibly can. And so yeah, we prioritize hand feeding with tigers and sometimes lemons. The rest, it's a free-for-all, it's a scrap. We don't do anything more for the bulls and the nurses, because we feel it's the survival of the fittest. Same way that they would have to fight for their food in the wild, they've got to fight for it a little bit at a feed site. The other thing we like to do with our guests is also teach them a little bit about behavior, because we still do hear it, and people will say, oh, that one shark, the one tiger was so aggressive because he kept coming in and he was banging into the box and he was almost not allowing you to open the lid. And we go, yeah, that's just hunger. It's not aggression. Like, we will see aggression. You know, if one of the sharks gets upset with another, you can see an animal get aggressive then. But with regards to just eating, they're just pushy, that's all. They're basically trying to show you that they really want to get food. They you know, I need it now. And so that's all it is. They don't show aggression to us. They're not turning on us. I always say to people, the point of this dive is to show you they're not mindless killers. We do want people to understand that the media has done an incredible job of sensationalizing these animals in order for sales. Even in Little Fiji here, if a spearfisherman, our local spearfish at night, and they still will swim out a great distance from shore. They don't have boats, some of them, and they just take an Hawaiian sling type of apparatus to shoot some fish. They know the fish that are sleeping in the reef at night. Easy for the sharks, easy for them too.
Right.
And so they're hunting in very shallow water, which is where our bull sharks and everybody else is hunting at night. Hunting for the parrotfish sleeping in the reef, or the surgeon fish, whatever fish it is. And so they go out, and when they shoot a fish, they just tie it to themselves. And as you can understand, that's incredibly dangerous to do in waters where sharks are in predatory mode, because once the sun sets, a little trigger goes off in their head and they just now got to eat. They don't waste their time and energy chasing fish down during the day, because fish can see them and move out the way. People often say, particularly when they go to the site, because the shark feed site, the cathedral, is a marine protected area. Every diver that dives with us pays us a fee. This fee is a compensation for not fishing that reef. So that's what makes it sustainable. As long as they keep earning an income from a tourism dollar, it prevents them from fishing the area. And so that reef, when they go there, is healthy. It's got large fish, it's got barracuda, snapper, you know, long-nosed emperor, you name it, it's got them out there. And they always say, why don't they chase and pursue the fish? You know, they're right here. And they say because they've done that already, probably when they were much younger. You know, swam around snapping at water, and all they did was waste a lot of energy. And when they expend energy like that, they then become even closer to really needing to eat. So they don't do that when they get older. They're like, well, we're not falling for that. We'll wait for nighttime. When you guys are all asleep, we're going to go around and sense electric fields in the reef, and then hopefully, because most fish, if they're smart, they've got an entry and an exit hole. You know, one they came in and one they can go out. So shark has got a 50-50 chance every night of, you know, getting the right hole to where they swim out of. We do have one tiger. You might get lucky and my voice runs out. We do have one tiger called Sylvester, and he has had his jaw broken by probably a steel trace wire on a fishing line.
Yeah.
He would have fought until he got off, but not before he severed his cartilage jaw. The weight of his jaw meant it healed when it was hanging down. So he's got no bite pressure on one side of his face. And so even when we put the fish head in, we have to make sure we get it in the good side, because if it comes, put it in the other side, it'll actually sometimes when he's trying to jostle it around, it'll fall out.
Right.
And we don't want it to fall out amongst the guests, obviously. So we try and always make sure we put it in his good side. And as people said, you know, we're probably keeping him alive. I also believe that. When he came to us, he'd been away for 6 months. So he obviously ate well here for a while, and then thought, I can do this on my own again. And he decided to take off. And then he came back, and he was so gaunt and slender. And he was, I mean, to be honest with you, everybody on the first day when he came back just thought he was manic. But because he was just swimming up, biting the box, he wanted to shred the aluminium box to try and get into it. And we couldn't open the box fast enough. He was doing the smallest circles ever. Like, he was, you know, like, I was saying, chew 33 times, please, you know,
right.
Digestion. But he was just eating, and we finished every head in the box on one animal. And we went back 2 days later, and he was still swimming around the reef, you know, all anxious. And now that he's put on some mass and he's got some size on him, he's a male, so he still doesn't behave like females. Females are very gentle. He's a bit of a snatcher. He comes in a bit faster, but he's still not a problem. He doesn't harass guests. He just swims along past. And I also explained to the guests another behavioral thing that I believe, and a lot of this behavioral stuff is only proven through repetition. But I do say to them, you have to understand, because sometimes there are guests all along the wall, and when the guests are all along the wall, they the tigers will see them and think, oh, well, we need to get amongst that, and then the tiger will push and shove, and people will back away, and the tiger will swim along behind where they were, sitting against them, going, what was the animal trying to do? Like it looked like it wanted to eat one of us or something. And we go, no, it wasn't snapping at anybody. It's just pushing you all out the way, because when they see like nurse sharks congregate on the bottom, there's generally a fish head underneath.
Right.
So if you're a shark swimming along and you see a congregation of fish or a congregation of sharks, there's something there, and it's generally edible.
Yep.
And they want to come along, use their size and intimidate and steal it. And so I said, that's all they're doing. You notice their mouths are closed. They're pushing people out of their way with their head, just thinking, why are you animals here? Because every other animal's there to eat.
Right.
Fish, sharks, everyone's there to eat. And yet these creatures turn up, they don't seem to be that interested in eating. They congregate, but there's no fish head around them. So I do think we confuse them and we throw them off. I don't think they understand what we do or our role. But generally speaking, most of the tigers just swim along the front of the line of the people, having a good look, great for photography, and then they turn and they go back to the box. When they eat, they like to very often get the fish head and then swim over the guest's head. And this is because when they go the other way, the bull sharks will try and intimidate them. They'll rush up to their face, right up, almost covering their eyes. And as much as I always say to people, one tiger will dominate 2 or 3 bull sharks, even full-grown bull sharks. But one tiger will not dominate 10 or 12 or 15 bull sharks.
Right.
Not at all. And so for that reason, they will know that they're swimming towards the bulls is not a good idea. But swimming towards the tourists and over the tourist's head and eating behind the tourists has always been a pleasure.
See.
No tourist has ever reached up and grabbed a fish head out of his mouth, thank God. And so they keep doing that. And I always give an example too, is I always say that, because I come from South Africa, in Africa, if you've got one female lion and she's got a prey she's eating, if a single hyena turns up, got no chance. But if a pack of hyenas turn up, they can chase her away from that. She'll fight for it for a bit, but eventually when they're all nipping at her hindquarters, she'll have to take off and leave that deer for them to, eat. And so it's similar with regards to tiger sharks, because a lot of people seem to think a tiger shark dominates, yes, but not a group of sharks.
Right.
And so, the throat. And so we do, hope people also, take away that these animals are intelligent. They're not, as I said before, mindless killers. They're not rogue sharks. All the names the press have given them.
Right.
And as I was saying, even when there's a shark attack here in Fiji, generally on a local spearfisherman who's spearfishing at night, they will put a picture on the front page of the newspaper here, the Fiji Times, or which one, of a great white. The pictures with their head out the water.
Yes.
They'll use a picture like that. I'm going, man, we don't even have that shark out here.
That's not here.
And, it's just to sensationalize. It helps people buy newspapers. But and it's not just Fiji. I don't mean to sound like I'm picking on Fiji. Fiji does it, but so does Australia. In fact, if people get bitten by a bull shark, it'll be a 3rd or 4th page story. If someone gets bitten by a great white, it's a front page story. The wounds can be the same.
Right.
The injuries can be identical. But it's just sensationalism. We demonize these animals. People then have a fear. It is very hard for me to get someone to feel compassion towards the animal enough to protect it if they fear it. If I can get people to understand the animal, I can get them to have compassion for the animal, and then I can get them to voice their protection for it, be it a petition or whatever.
Like Jacques Cousteau said, you only protect what you love.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, even the small sharks, your reef sharks, they've got the reputation of what I would compare to a cockroach. No one would go around with a petition to protect the household cockroach.
No.
Because then we would sign. And so they're either nuisances or pests, or we could do without them, or the seas would be better. They don't realize and understand the importance of an apex predator and how it controls biodiversity. Many of the shark species are keystone. meaning they actually hold up the whole food pyramid in the ocean and really have a really important part in biodiversity. And again, I was explaining that to the guests on the boat. If you look at tuna, right, most people like to eat tuna. So our long lining happens out where the tuna are, and that's where a lot of the shark finning was occurring. We have a shark out here in Fiji called the oceanic whitetip, very pesky, nuisance-like shark, very persistent in their pursuit of food. And these guys were like dogs in Fiji. There was that many in the ocean. And now they will set a 60-kilometer long line, and sometimes a boat can go a month without catching one. They set a long line every day. An average 60-kilometer long line back, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was doing triple digits on sharks. Now it's all single digits. And so it's had a massive impact. It's not like these sharks are now holidaying this year in Tahiti. We're not doing Fiji anymore. No, they've been caught. And if you catch a 15-year-old shark, you can't replace it with a 5-year-old shark, because that's probably near the coast and it has a totally different eating pattern. But to go back to the tuna thing, so why do we need sharks to help us with tuna, for instance? So the big thing with tuna, they start their lives up in the north from us, yellowfin particularly, and they'll come down through the Solomons to Fiji and on towards Tonga. As they're doing this, they're moving from bait ball to bait ball. So there's these silver-looking fish, pilchard type looking fish, sardine. There's these big conglomerations of these fish, 1,000, 100,000 fish. When they're swimming, they make a noise in the water. Tuna have got a very incredibly sensitive lateral line. They can pick them up and they move. When they arrive at this bait ball, they start feeding frenetically. They're big carnivores. And so for this reason, they will, for every 5 kilos of food they eat, they put on 1 kilo of body mass.
Wow.
So they are phenomenal eaters. But anyway, the thing that saves all of this bait ball from being devoured and totally finished and wiped out on that day is the arrival of sharks. Now the sharks turn up, they don't want a mouthful of these little fish, but very often they will shadow bait balls.
Okay.
And they wait for larger fish to arrive. And in the confusion of the feeding and the carrying on, because it is like a curtain of fish there, it's so dense. And the sharks know if they zoom through this curtain and they're parting it just in front of their nose, they can sometimes come right up to a tuna. They will bite the tail off of the tuna. It looks like to the average spectator, they've missed all the flesh. But you take the tuna's tail off, it's just a quivering mass in the water column. And then all these sharks pick this up. It's like, when we call you for lunch with a lolly, it's that loud to them. And they zoom in, they home in. Through the curtain of fish, they'll home in and devour it in seconds. It's gone. A big 25 kg tuna is gone in a matter of 5 to 10 seconds.
Wow.
And so, once this starts, this predation of the tuna's survival instinct greater than hunger instinct, they will leave this bait ball. It's now unsafe. There's too many sharks arrive, they can't carry on. They may reduce it from 100,000 down to 1,000. The good news is these fish breed about every 3 months.
Okay.
So they will pick their numbers back up in a very, very short space of time, where they'll be back up to a school of 100,000 plus. And bear in mind, when they're born, this size feeds seabirds like storm petrels and frigate birds. They've got little chicks on the islands, and they need to go back and feed.
Yep.
And so it's a very, very important species. We cannot afford to have every single fish in the bait ball being devoured. And that's what's happening right now out there. Tuna arriving on a bait ball, there's no sharks. They're eating every single one. That means the following year, when the tuna are coming down, they get in Fiji, instead of being 25 kg plus, they're now 15 kg. They swum the same distance, they just haven't eaten as often. So it's not good for our fishing industry. It's not good for people that like to consume tuna, the sashimi or whatever it's called. And so, we need these apex predators out there. And the shark finning industry has done an incredible amount of damage to the tuna industry. The tuna industry won't hear of it because they think that less sharks, because sharks will also eat tuna on a long line.
Okay.
And you can't sell a fish once there's bites out of it.
Right.
That fish you just throw back in. So they consider them like cockroaches out there, as I said. And they think it's better to have no sharks. But now they're starting to see the effects of smaller tuna, smaller fish. Now, of course, they don't want to blame their own fishing practices. So we hear El Nino or La Nina getting blamed. We hear global warming, which is always the go-to thing now. Anything goes wrong, it's not the fishing practices, it's global warming. Okay? Not yet, mate. You know, it's got to get a bit warmer. A lot of things are going to change before you can start blaming it. You know, put ahead of the game there. And so, yeah, we explain that to the guests on the boat, the importance of fish out in the blue. We explain the importance of even like a tiger shark around a reef like ours, how they control biodiversity on the reef. Fish in this bay here, for instance, we have turtle grass.
You have turtle grass.
Turtle
yes.
grass.
Yeah.
And out here, the turtles will come in and they eat. Now, if I don't have any sharks coming through the bay occasionally, little ones even, then the turtles will eat all the turtle grass. Turtle grass is like mangroves. So you've got mangroves, you know, the roots,
Yep.
they form part of a brilliant nursery. Little tiny fish are born or the mothers give birth, the little tiny fish, they hide in the mangroves until they're big enough to go out to the reef.
Yep.
Turtle grass does the same thing. If you go and snorkel amongst turtle grass, you'll see all these little juveniles hanging around, tiny little fish hiding in there. Once they're big enough, they will come out and go to the reef. If my turtle grass is short because there's no sharks coming through the bay, then that's a really bad nursery
Right.
because they've got nowhere to hide. And all the bigger fish will pick them off. And the next year, I won't have an abundance of fish on the reef because my turtle grass is short.
Gotcha.
So as much as when we snorkel or dive out here, we'd never see any sharks. Trust me, we've had bull sharks, all juveniles though. You know, like a 5-foot bull or a nurse shark. We have little baby black tips out here. They generally don't reveal themselves to snorkelers and scuba divers because we're a big shape and we could be a bigger predator. They don't know us. And so, yeah, we don't do any hand feeding if we see anything
Right,
out here.
yeah.
We don't want to familiarize the sharks too much. But we are doing a fish feeding program to get
When
them.
we came in, they said you were
Yeah.
feeding the fish.
So we do take food out, we feed all the bait fish, and that's what we want to see. We want to see bait fish, because when we see bait fish, we know automatically bigger fish will be attracted. Automatically.
Right.
That's what they see, and that's great for them. They're going to come here and they're going to, yeah, when there's a few more fish come, and then I'll predate and they'll predate, and in that confusion, I'll get something. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to pick up the bait fish numbers, the juvenile fish. We want long turtle grass. We do want turtles in the bay. We're not chasing turtles out the bay or anything like that. And we do have I believe, a healthy routine of young sharks coming through the bay. They all explore all along the coast here, looking for healthy bays. A healthy bay will always have a few. We have a little white-tip reef shark. He's a resident out here. Again, very hard to spot. Some of the divers here come back and will say, oh, we saw him. We have a big barracuda that comes into the bay occasionally. He's not always out here. But he doesn't understand personal space.
Right.
So he comes right up to divers and he's going, oh my God, the teeth are too close. And yeah, we have some bigger fish come through the bay, and that's just simply because there's a healthy number of smaller fish now in the bay. We want to restore it to pre-COVID times. And obviously, we just been building fish houses out here, so they've got accommodation, and if we put food, we've got all the requirements. And then after that, Mother Nature does her thing. I'm not up to biodiversity control, you know. Nature does all that by itself. So yeah, that's what we do at the Shark Dive as well. Thank God the villagers, most of them are respecting it. There are a few people that will try and poach it, obviously. But we now, since 2015, have a good number of tiger sharks that visited. Obviously, tigers and bulls don't turn into house sharks or reef sharks. They're big animals, big range. So, Big Mama, for instance, she comes, she eats 2 or 3 shark feeds in a row, and then we don't see her for weeks again.
Wow.
And she's a big girl, but she's probably one of the most gentle feeders. And I always say that is the confidence of your age. When you get bigger and bigger in the ocean, less and less things harass you, bother you.
Right.
And so when she cruises in, she's not too particular. It's the younger tigers, you know, the 10-footers and the 12-footers, they get in, they're all like anxious. You know, oh, there's a 10-foot bull there and another one over there. And so they, you know, a bit more different swimming pattern. And I always, as people do, as I said, they come out and they go, oh, this one, he was aggressive. I said, no, he's also got things to be concerned about. The younger they are, the more skittish and nervous they are. So they'll hide away almost. You're going, where's that shark? And then they zoom out of nowhere. Always catch you. You know, I'll be facing this way with a fish head, and they come straight over the top of my head. Man, geez, can you not do that? It freaks me out when you do that. And then they turn and come back. But yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for the guests every time is that they go in having been playing this movie in the morning in their head, probably a bit like a Jaws movie, probably is accompanied by Jaws music in their head. But then when they get on the dive, they're going, and these sharks are nothing like I thought in my head or I expected. This is nothing, you know what I mean? Like I often say to people, if I could see what you are imagining, I probably wouldn't do the dive.
Right.
Because that would be freaky scary. And so I said, yeah, I've just learned over time, they're really not trying to bite me.
Nope.
They have so many opportunities every single dive. They're incredibly powerful animals in their own element. And if you think that a 6-foot human can keep a 16-foot tiger off, then, you know, you're delusional.
I was snorkeling in Palau with German Channel, and I turned around to look at the boat because I was following the divers to the feeding station, and I looked back and there was a like 6-foot tiger, and visibility is great from like me to that tree.
Yeah.
And that distance down, so she had definitely come up to look at me, and I never even saw her. So, but she wasn't interested.
Yeah, no, and it's the same here with us. We have divers, you know, coming up after the dive, and then they like to go and explore. If there's no current, they go and explore, and we'll see one of the tigers coming up, and my staff, you know, was like ready to go over and fend because they take it on very personally about looking after the guests. And I was going, no, it's okay. And sure enough, she'll come up alongside the diver and just have a look, you know, just a couple of feet apart. You know, it's just what is your deal? You know, you turn up with the food and I never see you eating, you know. So I think to a shark, that's just already a strange creature. And so they have a look and then they go back down again. But yeah, we've never seen real aggression towards the thing. Now, having said that, yes, cameras have been bitten because strobes put out a huge electrical discharge.
Right.
As I said before, they've got a huge sensory capacity for electric fields, and so this is like an overload. And so they're just, you know, to them, their eyesight, they've steered them wrong, but their sensory capacity and their nose and their smell has never steered them wrong. And so like anything, they want to feel things out with their mouths, and so they bite on strobes, they bite on cameras because it's a big dome port lens, often reflecting sunlight, looks a bit like fish head. And so they think, oh well, their way of elimination is just through using their teeth, unfortunately. So I bite it. They can see a white clump of coral on the bottom, and if there was a fish head anywhere near that, you know, maybe the nurse shark swimming across the bottom, banging it, trying to break up, and if they hit that, he will bite that piece of coral, pick it up in his mouth, jostle it around, and spit it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Strong teeth.
Yeah. Mommy,
Okay.
I think Mommy needs you.
All right. Do you need me?
We have a break if you want.